this one.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, next paragraph. First, early on, a smart friend reminded me that there's a world of difference between secrecy and privacy. Secrecy is driven by shame and self-preservation, while privacy is created by healthy boundaries and self-care. My divorce is not a secret, and I am not ashamed, but it is private. Over the past year, I have been open with my real-life community, awkwardly disclosing my separation to acquaintances I've run into at the grocery store, in the gym, and, well, just about everywhere else. At the same time, I've chosen to maintain the privacy required for the two of us to find our feet, to discern our separate paths, and to begin to forge a future apart. I like that. I like that distinction. I just think a lot of times people get the two confused, even in their own life. So, they're holding things back because there's shame, but they say, oh, but that's my private life. And I actually do think there is a distinction there, but I think people use it.
Oh, you think
they use it?
You think people are saying that's private, but really it's shameful for them?
I think that happens.
Yeah. Oh, a ton.
A lot. Just like the whole modesty thing, where it's like, oh, well, I'm just trying to be modest, but in reality, you're just ashamed of your body.
I think that's really true, actually, about sex lives.
Absolutely.
Where people say, "Oh, that's private," and maybe it is, maybe it should be. I don't know. But actually, when they're saying it's private because it's shameful,
right?
It's all a form of bondage. And private is just one of those ways. When you say it's private, that's a private question. It kind of shuts down any type of conversation or relationship in that area, and you can just go on existing in shame.
Yeah.
Now, I'm coming at it from the opposite perspective. Growing up, I had a lot of secrets. Well, actually, I don't know if I had a lot, but I had a few that were very deep. A lot of my sexual stuff and stealing stuff was I never had told anyone. And it was really... they really defined me to myself, maybe not to other people. And all of this happened, by the way, while working in churches, and I felt really hypocritical. So when I started to get healthier in my, let's just say, last 10 years, mostly through 12-step groups, I kind of, for the first time, adopted this no secret policy. And I remember when I came out with my last one, that was when in fact, the story is, I had stolen this money from friends in my blackjack days. Well, I hadn't stolen it, but it got stolen from me, and I didn't report it the correct way. So it was $11,000, I think. And I didn't pay it back. So I essentially stole this $11,000 from 3 of my friends. And I never told them about it. And then my daughter, she was 11 at the time, my oldest, Dove. She was stealing and sneaking, and I took her out to this hotel one night in Seattle just to talk to her about it. And that's when I realized, for me to tell her that she didn't have to have secrets, I had to actually get rid of mine. So I went to my friends, it was super scary, and I told them I was going to pay it back. This is years later, and none of them really cared. They were oh, that's cool. I mean, it was a much bigger deal for me than it was for them.
Yeah.
And then, to make matters really kind of funny, I was on this podcast. I think it's the largest podcast in the world. Telling my story. And I should link to it if I can even find it. And it's This American Life. And I was telling my story about blackjack. So we're all excited. We're huddled around the radio thing, listening to it when it first came out. And they played they recorded an hour or two of me talking, and the first minute what these guys play is me talking about this stealing. It's the worst thing I've ever done in my adult life, and it's on the largest podcast in the world. And I just had to make this decision. How do I feel about that? Or what do I do with that? Do I be like, these sons of bitches like misrepresented me, but actually they didn't. They actually totally accurately represented me. Mm-hmm. Anyways, that's a deviation, but since then I've been paranoid of like, I don't want to keep these secrets anymore. Mm-hmm. I just want to like live what you see is what you get.
Well, it's kind of, I think it's when you come out of that culture of, oh, you got to keep a certain face on or a certain look or certain perception, and then you're coming out of that, a lot of time you just overreact, where you feel like you need to practice the opposite of that to the extreme. And I think you did that for a number of years. And, you know, maybe it was a compulsion, but I think maybe you needed to do that.
I don't regret it.
Because it was, like, healing for you to do that.
So, like, let's go back to the question that Faith asked. She said, you know, you and Cammie seem to favor being pretty public about certain things unless people would keep to themselves. Why do you think that is? Well, there's the answer.